guys, and welcome back to FemmeHead. Today we're going to talk about a couple things that I'm doing for my hormone health. And these are just kind of like very, very simple, easy switches. So if you're looking for revolutionary stuff. But sometimes I feel like we need to hear the simple things because we're all looking for the quick fix, the one supplement, the one pill, like whatever it is. And we're not getting down to like the core issue of what's actually going on. But that's what this is about, because 2024 is the year of hormone health. It's also the year of gut health, but we'll get into that later. And so first up on my reading list this year was the Hormone Cure. And kind of like how I've been doing it is I like my Kindle fantasy books at night before bed. And then in the morning, I do a Sudoku puzzle with my coffee. And then I will read like a chapter of a educational book, or like a few chapters depending on the length of the chapter. But I'm currently into my second book, and I wanted to share the changes that I'm making because of this book. So according to Miss Sara and her little questionnaire in here, I love a book with a questionnaire. I should be focusing on 4 areas. This is where I scored the highest, so like the most red flags. First one is dysregulated cortisol, which I could have told you about. Too much, too little, or like it's just you have low cortisol in the morning and you have high cortisol at night, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to have. The next one is low progesterone, which I could have said because like low progesterone is something that I have dealt with for years and years and years. And then also another interesting one was progesterone resistance. So you might technically have enough progesterone, but there, like, something might be happening in your body where those receptors are getting filled with something else instead of progesterone. So you're not getting the effects of the progesterone, even though you have enough. Like other things are getting in there. Low estrogen. Estrogen is your like feminine hormone, like what makes you a woman. And then the final one is low thyroid, which I think is interesting because a year ago I like swore that my thyroid was off. 2 interesting things, if I can share them with you from the book, is she says, talking about her like medical education, I had been trained to identify the weeds and dead plants, but not to look for the early and subtle signs of ailing to come, which I think is so true of like modern Western medicine. It's so good at fixing broken things, but I think preventative care, as well as seeing when things are like starting to go wrong, like they are looking for the broken things. They are looking for the things that reach the levels of like way too low or way too high. Like they're not looking at like, oh yeah, well that's not like perfect and you're saying you're experiencing all these things. I just feel like you get told, oh, that's part of being a mom. Oh, that's part of like having given birth. Oh, that's part of like being a woman. Oh, that's part of like getting older. You know yourself, and you know that like that is not your normal, that is not your like balanced, healthy place. But because it's not like flashing red lights to the medical professionals, it doesn't get addressed because it doesn't reach those levels of concern. Another interesting thing was about postpartum thyroiditis. After giving birth, about 7% of women develop what's called postpartum thyroiditis, when the immune system attacks the thyroid, causing mood swings, lethargy, thinning hair, and difficulty with weight loss. I swear, which like isn't like some big conspiracy theory, like being pregnant, giving birth, and like postpartum like throws your hormones for a loop. Like they are all over the place. I feel like my hormones were even a bit more messed up than they were before, and that's why I'm like finally at a place where I'm like, okay, let's figure this out, even though my youngest just turned 3. Okay, let's get into the 5 simple changes that I'm making. So I would like to think that I am a relatively healthy person. Some of the things that she had recommended I was already doing. We'll start with my worst one. Cutting out sugar. And I don't know if it's cutting out sugar. I'm changing it to less sugar, like cutting down on sugar. I have an unbelievable sweet tooth, but I'm making progress. Coffee, for example, I don't use my like super sweet creamers anymore. I don't put sugar in it. Like I slowly wean myself off from like using the sugary creamers to then just putting a little bit of like brown sugar, and now I don't put any sugar in it. And other places like putting substantially less brown sugar in my oatmeal and just using less amounts of sugar, scaling back drastically, but then also like cutting it out in certain places so I can enjoy it other places. How about like my Trader Joe's dark chocolate peanut butter cups? I love those. Like I love dark chocolate sea salt caramels, like that sort of stuff. So for it to be like a sustainable long-term thing, I'm not looking at it as like I need to cut cold turkey. Never again am I gonna have sugar or sweets. Like I don't think that is sustainable, and it could become like, okay, now I've cut down drastically, like I really don't need the things anymore. You can just cut it out. But for me, starting small. The next one is alcohol. Cutting it down drastically or cutting it out completely. I feel like there is like a movement of people not drinking alcohol. Definitely doesn't have the same like culture that it used to. I had gotten into the habit of, I think like COVID, and that didn't help, of just like being stuck at home and wine. Got into this habit of really enjoying pouring like a nice little glass of wine to make dinner with, like drink while I'm making dinner, and I like romanticize making dinner and like listening to music and drinking my glass of wine, and like it was great because I hate making dinner. I hate cooking, but I'm getting better. I should say I hate it, even if it's just that one glass. But sometimes it'd turn to like a second glass during dinner or after, like you'd really fill your glass after dinner, and it was just like, that's way more alcohol than you're supposed to be drinking throughout the week. I think like 3 glasses. And so I'm like, okay, we just need to, and like I have like gone cold turkey on so many things. Like I'm like, I'm gonna take a break from this, I'm gonna take a break from this. So what I've just like come up with this, the same thing with sugar, is just like cutting it down drastically. Not having the bottles of wine at home. So this kind of started right after Christmas. We've gone on 2 trips since then, and the first one I had a couple glasses of wine, and then the second one I had like a couple mixed drinks because we were in a warm place. And I noticed that like I wasn't enjoying the drink. It wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't doing it for me anymore. So it's been about a month of just like nothing, no alcohol. If you want the why behind why less sugar, why less alcohol, that sort of stuff, I'll probably make a blog post that goes into more detail, because I'm already like being way too long-winded for this video. The third thing is cutting out caffeine. And for me, this is like another, well, almost, because I've simply switched my normal coffee to just decaf coffee, because I love the act of drinking, like having a warm cup of coffee to drink. Like there is something so soothing about it. Yummy little drink, you know? And decaf coffee still has a little bit of caffeine, but it's like tiny compared to it. So I think decaf roughly has around 2 milligrams, while a normal cup of coffee has around 95 milligrams. So I figure probably low enough to where it's not going to be like throwing my cortisol levels out of whack and messing up my sleep cycles and everything. But to make it a like sustainable long-term thing for me, switching to decaf so I can still have that experience of drinking coffee is gonna make it last longer, or be just like long-term for me, rather than like you're never gonna drink coffee again, you're never gonna have a glass of wine, you're never gonna have sugary treats ever again. Everything in moderation. Number 4 is starting up a gratitude journal, which you're like, oh, that can help your hormones. This one is more to do with like cortisol and how you handle stress, like your response to stress and how your mind and body processes it. And I know a gratitude journal is very helpful, and I need to just like get back into it. The same goes with morning pages. Those kind of go hand in hand, and just, I know that writing things down is very helpful for my little brain. And then the final one is 10,000 steps. I'm not gonna lie, it's been winter. I've been pretty sedentary, besides like cleaning the house, doing stuff with the boys. Like I am not exercising, I'm not going on bike rides, walks, any of that. So I saw this one, I was like, yep, we need to like, you need to have a little goal for your little brain. 10,000 steps is apparently like a marketing thing from like way back in the day. But you see the benefits starting around 4,000 steps, and then around 7,500 is where like the sweet spot for most people. So I'm gonna say like 7,500 to 10,000. And I just watched a video yesterday of this girl that walked 20,000 steps a day, and she was going through all the benefits of like the changes. And I was like, huh, and I don't have time to walk 8 to 10 miles a day. The book I'm currently reading is Sleep Smarter. Going along with moving your body is the need to have direct sunlight in your eyeballs in the morning. Going on a walk to get that sunlight in my eyeballs between, I think it was like 6:30 to 8:30 is like the best time of day. And those are the 5 simple things that I'm going to be implementing as foundation, ground zero, positive change towards hormone health in 2024. Join me. All right, guys, that's what I have to say. I'm sorry I blabbed on so long. I've got a lot of editing to do to cut this down. If you want more deets on what the benefit behind each of these are, I'll include more info in my blog post about it at FemmeHead.com. As well as I will link the books I'm reading or that are on my to-read list down below. If something's out of whack, you know your body best. And don't take, oh, that's just part of being a woman or getting older or having kids. Like, no. Our body wants to be balanced and healthy, so let's help it get there.